high alcohol, really pronounced beer.
Hoppy IPA kind of thing.
And what it is actually, this is from Motor City, which Kirsten did bring.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you,
Because
Kirsten.
she's from Motor City.
The Motor City.
Yeah, she's from the Motor City. And the funny thing was, I went on their site and they have a ghetto blaster, the stereo, but it's made to look like an engine to a dragster, although it has 6 cylinders instead of 8, but it has a blower on it and the whole 9 yards. But I'm reading the thing, and it's so funny because just about a week ago I was saying, and I think I said it on the show, I said, it'd be nice if somebody made a mild, but nobody makes a mild. Well, here we have a mild, and a mild is an English-style beer, which it's kind of the antithesis of the American craft beer, because, first of all, it's low in hop content, it's very low in alcohol content, but it's a beer that the alcohol content on this beer is 4.2%. That's all, 4.2.
Nice.
IBUs, 15, amongst the lowest IBUs we've ever reviewed. So I am a big fan of this beer already, just because they're snubbing their nose at these other guys. Not that there's anything wrong with the other guys, but I think it's really cool when you have somebody who does something, they step out and they try to do something that nobody else is doing, and I think that's fantastic. So I'm really curious about trying this beer.
Here's to Motor City.
Motor City.
Yes.
There you go.
Michigan.
Maybe Motor City should be
Motor City is the word of the day.
The word of the
It's-
day.
You got it.
Motor
City.
From that point on, that's the beer that we cheers on.
Yeah.
Yes. Motor City, no
And by
matter
the way,
what.
for all you folks out there in Radio Land, we do trust you drinking beer with us, regardless of what it is. Of course, you're not going to know what to buy before you get listening to our show, but by all means.
Unless you're listening on iTunes and then you've heard the show before and then you go out and you buy a beer just to drink that
That's
beer with
true,
us.
too. Yeah,
if you
that's
can
a
get it,
very good
because
point,
some of the
Danny.
beers we've had have been a little
on the rare side,
unobtainable.
yeah. Unobtainium.
Unobtainium beers. Makes
What
it
a
fun.
nice beer.
Yeah, it's really malty. I mean,
Yeah.
So an
So-
IBU on a sour, for instance, is like 60, 70. An average sour, what do you think? An IBU? Do you have any idea?
The thing about the sours is that it's not the hops that give it the sourness. So
Right, right.
The IBUs are from the hops. So,
Yeah, so we could- okay.
They're two, you're dealing with
So
two
I mean,
different
like,
things.
so the bitter and sour are two different things
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on.
I'm so proud that somebody's making a mild.
Yeah, it's
really
it's
good.
really
And
nice.
the history of the mild is interesting. What happened was during World War II, the English, and to this day they keep these bizarre hours for their pubs, but it all goes back to World War II. And what was happening was they would have people who were working in the factories building Spitfires and tanks and stuff like that, and they would go to lunch, and they didn't want them to get hammered. They wanted them to go out, have lunch, come back, and continue building their Spitfires and Rolls-Royce engines and all that stuff. So they made this beer called Mild, where they could have a few, and it wouldn't affect them. And their bar hours, the bar hours, I forget exactly what they are. Michelle, the beer lover out in England, you'll have to help me out with this one. But in any case, I think it's 11 to 2, and then the bars close, and then they reopen at 5, and they're open till 11, and then
Till 11.
boom, and then they close.
You're right on the
Because
money.
they didn't want the workers to go out and get hungover. They wanted them fresh in the morning. So, but that's how the milds came about, because they didn't want them getting tanked.
Danny,
Yes.
let's do pairing notes with Danny.
Pairing. It's time for.
What-
It's
why
time
don't
for
we-
pairing notes with Danny.
Why don't we start with tasting notes with Danny,
Tasting notes with Danny.
which is
I love the maltiness. There's a graininess to it. I can really get like the grain kind of sits on top after. It's like the malt, but then it becomes a little sharper. Like the taste is very sharp. So I'm thinking, cheeses, like some kind of cheese. Definitely like a nice, maybe a Gouda or maybe a Manchego or I don't
Yeah.
know, something else with like
Cheese
a.
would be good, yeah.
Or maybe even a milky, like a milkier cheese, maybe something to
like
counteract the sharpness.
What we have right now, we have the butter casa.
The buttercasa cheese.
That sounds like fun.
But I think because it's a Detroit beer, we should just step over to Windsor and get some Canadian cheddar.
All right.
Canadian cheddar, or maybe we could do some curds with it, cheese curds.
I'm thinking, and now I'm going to be going a little bit over the line here, but I'm thinking a sharp English Stilton.
Yeah, that would work.
Something because it's a very malty beer, and it literally is mild. It has a very low IBUs. It has a lot of malt to it, and I'm thinking the contrast between like a really sharp cheese and the beer, which is very soothing, would go together. I'm thinking.
Yeah, for me, I mean, just riffing off of my own thing, poutine, which is like French fries, gravy, and cheese curds, which is like the national food of Montreal. But it's found all around the Midwest and Northwest. It's literally like the drunk person's savior.
Thank you.
It's absolutely amazing.
It's delicious.
It is. It's absolutely amazing.
I'm surprised at this beer. I really am. It's a great
Very
malty beer.
tasty.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, this would go. I think to me, this would go great with any potato product.
But this beer reminds me of England. But
Yes,
it's a motor,
it really
motor-
does.
But it's
Yeah.
a Motor City Detroit beer. That's what's so surprising
And
about it. They did a great job.
I'm really glad that you got the opportunity to bring this down. This was a request that I made to actually have brought down. Every time one of my friends go to Detroit, and they're like, "What do you want me to bring you back?" I'm like, "Ghetto Blaster," and they're like, "All right," and then like. They come back and they're like, "I'm like, did you bring in a Ghetto Blaster back?" And they're like, "No, I drank it all."
Those jerks.
Which is
I will bring it for you every time I come back
God bless you.
down. Guaranteed.
oh, thank you so much. This is I mean,
Like smuggling Coors 40 years ago.
yeah, this is like smuggling Coors.
In your truck.
She's got it in the back of her car.
The first time I had this beer was during the Detroit Electronic Music Festival, probably 2006.
Hey, what's the brewery on this?
It's Motor City.
Motor City.
That's the name of
Motor
it.
City Brewing
That's
Company.
the name
Oh,
of the
okay.
brewery.
Okay, sorry.
And, yeah, I didn't look at all their beers because I was getting the research, but this one, like I said, it was a like a dragster engine built. The insignia they used for it was basically a Ghetto Blaster stereo with a couple of speakers. The two speakers were the V in the engine, and then it had a supercharger on top. And so I don't know if that's the theme of all their products, but it was. It was fun. There you go.
They have a very engine themed beer company.
Well, and on top of that, related to the fact that you first drank this at a music festival, it says Ghetto Blaster is also the beer you can hear, an ongoing documentation of the Detroit music scene.
Yes.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, they're big proponents of live music in Detroit, and they do support a lot of both electronic and rock and roll and stuff like that. They're a great company. Yeah, so the first time I had it was at a little off party we had at her place, and by little I mean there was like probably 600-700 people there, and I was like, "What is this beer? I've never heard of it before." And we had a keg, and I just was like, "This is awesome!" I was like, "This is like."
That's fabulous stuff.
Yeah, at the time, it was like everyone was hopped out. I mean, like every beer
Yeah.
company was making like hopped out crazy
That's
stuff.
why
And
I take my hat off to
Yeah,
them because
I
they're
mean,
doing
and
the
they-
complete opposite.
they're rocking it, man, and I really love this beer. Whether it be music and or beer, I love the Motor City.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, but I'm out of beer too. Yeah.
That's-
Christian brought us a whole bunch of this.
There's beer
No.
right there. There's beer right there, Dave.
Okay.
This
Thank
is
you,
a real
Kirsten,
treat.
for
Totally.
bringing this one
And
down.
You're
I've been trying to
welcome.
get this, like I said, I've been trying to get this beer down, this damn beer, down to Key West for
But
probably 4 years.
You just kept calling it Ghetto Blaster. Bring Ghetto Blaster. Nobody was concerned with that.
They would drink it.
No, they drank it all. They were like,
You can picture Mark asking his friends, "Can you please drive Ghetto Blaster down from Detroit to Key West?" Mark's friends driving a beer all the way down to Key West.
well,
Well, you now have a new and reliable source for Ghetto Blaster. I drove this all the way down. It's been in our apartment for 2.5 weeks now,
I was worried it was
and I
going
didn't
to
touch
dissipate.
it. I didn't touch it.
I was worried it was going to
proud of you.
dissipate.
Have you had this before?
No, this is my first time. I have been to Motor City Brewing Works before, but I have not had this.
She hid it from me.
Yeah.
I did.
Thank you for doing that.
Hey, this is Key West Chris. You're listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers. Okay, so the next beer we're going to be doing is from the Seventh Son Brewing Company in Columbus, Ohio. Now, the fun part about that in itself is that apparently there's another brewery here in Florida, in Dunedin, called the Seventh Son Brewery. The Seventh Son in Dunedin, Florida, yeah, there's two. The one in Florida spell their name with the number 7 and then ENTH, and where this one is SON, that's UN. They're using SUN. And I can only think that somebody got the name and then the other guy said, hey, wait a minute, this is our name. You got to do something else.
Wait a minute.
But yeah, so this is from Columbus, Ohio, and Dave Sr. is from Columbus, Ohio. And there's another
that's
beer
where I'm
that
from.
Kirsten brought in.
Yeah. Thank you, Kirsten.
You're welcome. This was leg 1 of my road trip down to Key West this summer. So,
Leg 1.
well, I guess technically Detroit was leg 1. This
Yeah.
is leg 2. Yes.
And so this is also a collaboration that Seven Son
Yeah.
did with Homestead Brewing Company.
And the fun part about it is that each of them call their beer different names.
Yes.
Yeah, this one they call the Gatekeeper, and the Homestead Beer Company calls theirs. Excuse me, the Homestead Beer Company called theirs Gatekeeper, and the Seventh Son calls theirs the Keymaster.
Are you the gatekeeper?
So if anybody gets that joke out there, it's a reference to Ghostbusters.
Who you gonna call?
And the Homestead Brewing Company
Ghostbusters!
is in Licking County, Ohio, which is probably only 25 miles from the Seventh Son.
Okay, so they're pretty much neighbors.
Yeah, they're another county over, but it's not too far away.
As the crow flies.
In Licking County, it's the old homestead.
The old Homestead.
Yeah,
Actually, the old Homestead.
it's in the area where Coach Woody Hayes used to have a cabin out there.
Ooh, he had a
It's in that
cabin.
same area.
Woody Hayes had that cabin back there.
Now we're all,
Homestead.
let's all talk like old people for the rest of the night.
Back to Homestead. Woody Hayes back to Homestead. Had that cabin. He used to cook beans in there.
Ooh, that's a nice
Oh,
farmhouse.
This is a. It doesn't. I don't know if it says it on there, but this is a saison. It's actually very dark for a saison. It's
Amber.
It's like an amber in color.
Yeah.
It's also higher in alcohol than you would expect for a saison, if I remember correctly.
Well, it's
Yeah,
5.4. It's
that's
not
not-
oh no,
considered.
it's
not
not
that
that
bad.
A different one. No, that's fine. Yeah.
It's not actually
no.
excessively large. But it is big in flavor.
You're not kidding.
Oh, it's very big in flavor.
Big in flavor and has. I'm getting like a very grainy fruit flavor.
Yeah. And this has,
It builds.
yeah. It is, this has sour notes to it.
Yes, it does.
Sure, it does. Yeah.
With only 20 IBUs.
And like you said, 5.4 ABV.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I put a note on there just for those of you out and if you're going to look these things up online, both Beer Advocate and Rate Beer have incorrect information on it. It does not correspond with what the brewer is giving out.
Well, it might be a different year or a different. What?
They're not going to have a 2.5% alcohol increase.
Okay.
Yeah, they both said it was 7.2.
Ah,
And it's 5.4.
it has a delicious
So, you know,
grain
again, that's-
taste and
We always go by what the brewer says, not what.
I did a little research on the Ashbourne mild grain,
okay.
and it's a company that sells beer products out of Oregon, and they are
okay.
organic, or as much as possible they can be. And then the Y Yeast is a company that creates yeasts,
Yeah.
different strains of yeast.
And this is from their private collection, which is more expensive.
Well, I
It's harder to come by.
Yeah, a lot of homebrewers use Y Yeast. They're probably the biggest company out there.
now that's I thought it was a typo, but it's actually WYEAST.
Correct.
Yeast.
Yeah.
That is the name of the yeast company. Although they do have another name, but as far as their legal terminology, but the Yeast is all different kinds of strains, the Belgians, and they create yeast